keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. We're about to talk about 49-player big board. Now, this isn't the 49 best players in the draft. These are 49 players we feel the 49ers should target that could potentially either fall into the second round where they can trade up to get them, or will be available to them at 61 or throughout the draft. And there's some names on there that you've heard us cover. There's some names maybe you haven't, but this is going to be fun to get into.
It is. It's going to be fun to get into. And we got 49 guys to go through. We got some guys to talk about a little bit more in depth, and some guys just kind of breeze through. But let's get this thing started with the first 7 names on said list and the first 7 gentlemen on the 49ers Cutback 49-player big board. And you see there, number 1, David Ojabo. And some people may be going, but he's injured, folks. But David Ojabo, and absolutely incredible talent, does a lot of things. Your favorite edge rusher in this class.
Yeah.
And personally, one of my favorite edge rushers. And in fact, felt like the guy who was most likely that the 49ers could land potentially at 61, or maybe only having to come up a few spots in order to get.
Yeah, this guy has D Ford, caliber talent written all over him. And he's coming off a ridiculous Achilles injury that he suffered during his pro day, which was terrible. But this guy is still a first-round talent, and to me, a top 10 to 15 talent in this draft. The injury is going to allow the 49ers to have a chance to get him. And so if he does fall into that second round, you have to think about going up there and getting a David Ojabo because, it maybe not this year, but after that, for the next 4 years after that, he could be a huge impact on your team, rushing opposite of Nick Bosa on a rookie pay scale.
And a little bit more refined as well as a player. And of all these guys, he's a little bit more closer to a full tool, complete a defensive end than he is so much a closer or something like that and playing a role. Number 2 on this list was Arnold Ebiketie, edge rusher out of Penn State. Number 3 after that, center Tyler Lindenbaum, interior O-lineman out of Iowa. A little bit of an interesting name. People will be going, guys, I thought this was 49 players the Niners could target. This guy's going to go in the first round. Not so fast, folks. All of a sudden, he's starting to fall down some boards.
Yeah, he's slipping a little bit. And then you got John Lynch's comments coming out, about Alex Mack, and it starts to think, wait, if this guy fell out of the first round, and right now he's getting mocked at the end of the first round, early second.
True.
If he fell out and day 2 he was available, the 49ers could potentially go and strike and get a big-time center that they could fill the Alex Mack role with. Maybe not this year, but potentially this year. That's how good he is. So this would be a nice move for them.
The guy who could slide in on the interior, too, and high IQ player, a lot of power, a lot of strength, a lot of positive things in Tyler Lindenbaum's game. And not a name that I don't think either one of us considered putting on our boards. In fact, wasn't originally on mine when we were going through stuff. But, hey, I like Tyler Lindenbaum sliding into the second round and makes it entirely doable for San Francisco. Number 4 there, Christian Watson, wide receiver at North Dakota State. Number 5, Tyler Smith. They're saying interior O-line on DFN, the Draft Network, but a tackle prospect who has the potential to move inside there from Tulsa. Jaquan Brisker, safety from Penn State. First time a safety makes the board, and in the top 10, you like to see it. And then edge rusher, Boy Mafi, and that rounds out the top 7 there. Which name do you think is the most likely?
Well, I think what you notice there is right away, right, there's 3 edge rushers. That's something the 49ers often do, so you're going to kind of work your board to be adept to what they do, and that's one thing that they do, and then you kind of couple it with the big-time receiver and then a center. So we're going with what the 49ers are looking for, but also with tremendous athletes and skill. So these are guys that would probably be in the beginning of the second round if they were available. The Niners would have to trade up to get them.
Accurate there, Ant. They would have to trade up to get some of these guys. Now we get to 8 on, and this is you guys that are going to be starting to maybe get a little closer to 61, or maybe not as much of a jump in order to go get said players. Ant, let everyone know, who do we got here?
Yeah, we got Jalen Petrie, first off, the nickel / safety, whatever you look at him from Baylor. Then another nickel corner in Kyler Gordon from Washington. And then Marcus Jones from Houston, who seems to be everyone's favorite guy, Alex. It seems like everyone wants Marcus Jones on the 49ers. 49ers Twitter has basically just made it so. The only problem is Green Bay Twitter's made it so. The Houston Texans Twitter has made it so. Pretty much every Twitter is now fallen in love with Marcus Jones, but he's a great player, very instinctive, very fluid hips, is able to turn and run with receivers, can play match zone as well. He's a very good talent, and he would definitely be a nice player for the 49ers to draft.
And underappreciated in the return game as well. There are a lot
There
of
you
positive
go.
things with this gentleman out of Houston in the return game. And so sitting here in the top 10, not a surprise for either of us. Also, not a surprise for most fan bases across the league either. Marcus Jones, very popular draft pick. Surprised not going in the first round. In all honesty, at this
You would
point,
think he was Dion or something.
you would think so. With how much love this man is getting,
Yeah.
that's not hate though. Marcus, we love you.
Yeah.
Number 11, John Mechie III, and wide receiver out of Alabama, and running back, first running back on the board here, Ant at 12. Isaiah Spiller, running back out of Texas A&M.
Yeah, Isaiah Spiller, early on in the process, didn't look like he was going to be available to the 49ers. An early second-round pick. 49ers weren't going to trade up to get a running back in the second round. But for some reason, Isaiah Spiller is starting to slip a little bit. I've seen him mocked as early as as far down as the third round. That means he's in striking distance for the 49ers. He would be there at 61 now. Everyone might say, why would you take a running back at 61? You may not. But you could come up from 93 to get a running back if he was still available in the 70s. They've proven they were willing to do that last year with Trey Sermon, and Isaiah Spiller's a really good running back.
He's a solid running back. Yeah. Talk about a guy who does, in all facets of the game. Pass catching, check. Running the football, inside zone, check. Outside zone, check. He's got a little bit of everything. Definitely one of the more shiftier running backs, too, in this class in terms of the prospects that are on the board and available.
Patience and vision on an all-time high. This is one of the best running backs in the draft for sure.
Solid there at 12. And then who do we got at 13?
Damari Mathis. I wonder who likes that guy.
I wonder why that's 13. At 13?
Yeah, you dang right. This guy's 13, and you know what? And I wanted to put him higher than that, just so you know.
I know you.
Damari Mathis is a very solid player, an absolute thumper, and I can't wait until he goes out there and starts laying the lick on people. So that way, people will remember where they heard it first. Damari Mathis is a big time player.
I'm not going to argue with you. The film speaks volumes. He's a very talented player. And then big tall wide receiver Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati to round out that next batch of prospects there, and those next 7 there off the board. Some good names, some solid pieces there, some solid guys. Marcus Jones does feel like the one that's the most likely to end up in San Francisco. But is there a name that you're keeping an eye on right now that you think is entirely possible come this draft process?
Yeah, I think number one, the first thing you saw on there was all guys who could play nickel, right? Petrie, Gordon, Marcus Jones, and Mathis were all in that area, right? Those are all guys who could play the nickel spot, play safety, depending on how you want to use them. That was the first thing. But the guy that stands out is Alec Pierce. If you're not able to get your Christian Watson earlier, you're not trading up to get him. You're still looking for that tall receiver that can stretch the field. Pierce has that. And with the wingspan and the ability to go get the football, you got to like him potentially as one of those guys. And this is also, like you said, it could be guys ahead of 61 and it could be guys after 61. But these are guys the Niners could value.
Very, very, very much the case, Ant. All those guys either going to be right before, at, or just a smidge after. And you're right about Alec Pierce, Ant. He does stand out. He does stand out with the big size and the speed. All those things noticeable. But now the next part of the list. They're sitting at 15. Linebacker Brandon Smith out of Penn State, Ant.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite linebackers in the entire draft. It didn't take me long to figure out that a guy of his size at over 250 pounds that can move like him and still be able to go sideline to sideline, but was good enough in coverage and good enough in run fits, was going to be a potential starter in this league, and I think he will be. So would the 49ers think about going with Brandon Smith at 61? I don't think so. But at 93, 100% they would think about going that route.
This is why, originally when I was looking at linebacker prospects, because I didn't think a linebacker was possible at 61, a guy like this who I thought could go before 61, I didn't even consider. Like, I watched the film and liked it, and I was just like, Niners can't get this. They're not going to be able to go up high enough to make this work. But you're right. If he starts falling past 61, getting close to 93, if you get within 15 picks of 93, 20 picks within 93, I'm tempted. I'm tempted to move up.
Yeah, he instantly helps you on special teams and then could fill in case you have a problem with Azeez Al-Shire or Dre Greenlaw, and then you're drafted and developed, ready to go for 2023.
Accurate.
When one of those guys moves on, you get a comp pick from them, you already have your backup.
Very true, Ant. Again, the Niners are a year early, so this is definitely a name to keep an eye on there.
Yeah.
After that, running back James Cook, who we've seen now, originally sitting at 105, it was feeling like, oh, yeah, you grab James Cook at 105. That's solid there. And then, in a not surprising fashion, all of a sudden he starts moving up boards a little bit. So you may have to be a little bit more aggressive, but talk about a guy who fits a lot of the things there. Brian Cook, safety out of Cincinnati as well. Linebacker Darian Beavers out of 60. Well, so Cincinnati, Ant, dominating the board here with players. From Alec Pierce right down to Darian Beavers. 3 of the last 6 names, right? And then Sitting there at 19, tight end James Mitchell out of Virginia Tech, a new name in terms of being talked on the podcast, and but not new in terms of impact.
Yeah, and I don't know why everyone isn't talking about him. This guy's a complete tight end. I really like him. He's going to be able to be a good blocker in the NFL, but also a receiving threat. He's a guy you can count on for 3 downs. If you need to, George Kittle's out, you can line up James Mitchell and know that you're going to get production out of him. Is it going to be George Kittle production? No, of course not. George Kittle's an all-pro, but you're going to get a good production out of him and better than anyone else in the tight end room currently.
You're not going to sacrifice a lot either.
No, you're not, and he's a good athlete. So I think this guy could continue to develop. So the 49ers striking on this guy and potentially 105 would be a huge move for them, and I think it would give them a lot more flexibility than they have right now when they're pigeonholed on which tight end they have out there.
Agreed. You're definitely pigeonholed. You're definitely limited in terms of your options. You're a lot more predictable. Get away from predictability. James Mitchell does that. The fluidity at which he moves on the football field, too, is evident. You can see athleticism oozing and dripping off of him in space. You're not sitting there going, man, this guy's not shifty. Man, this guy can't run. Man, this guy isn't physical. All of those things come across on film, and I want me a tight end room that's more complete. I want that. Me, likey, complete tight end room.
There you go.
This gets you there. Sitting there at 20, Dylan Parham, interior offensive lineman guard, specifically, out of Memphis, that has some flexibility to do a lot of different things. Could play center, could play at the guard spot, has some movability there. And then the wide receiver who's got Kyle Shanahan written all over him, Kyle Phillips, shares the first name, ironically, a wide receiver out of UCLA.
Yeah, this is where you saw in the 7 that you've seen a little bit of differences amongst it. You've seen a safety, you've seen a linebacker, or a couple linebackers, and then you've seen the big tight end, James Mitchell, who we believe could be a big-time player. But people might question why Dylan Parham is where he's at.
True.
The reason Dylan Parham is there is because he's more pigeonholed in what he plays. Right? Earlier, we went with a more flexible offensive lineman, a tackle, because that's how the 49ers primarily look at it. Offensive tackle that can move to the interior. Last year, Aaron Banks, the first time they've taken an interior offensive lineman in this regime.
Accurate.
So Dylan Parham would have to be the second time that happens. So moves a little bit down the board, but 20 is a nice spot for Dylan Parham, a very nice prospect.
Again, top 49 players. He's sitting before the halfway mark, and I think we're doing pretty well right now. I think we've hit a lot of things and a lot of needs. And now we move on to the next situation, the next spot here. And, of course, screen cap makes things fun. But sitting there, right there at 22 is offensive tackle Max Mitchell out of Louisiana, a guy that when I originally watched film was like, ain't no way this dude is going to be going late. He's physical. He's dominant. He does so many positive things on film, both in the run game and in the pass game. Yes, there were some questions about pass pro stuff, but Max Mitchell, there was a solid name, and seeing him here in the top 25, deserves to be here.
Yeah, I would bring him in and have him compete right away. I think he could be the understudy to Mike McGlinchey, and then potentially you could move on from McGlinchey during the offseason and save the money as you go to a guy on a rookie pay scale. This guy has the aggressiveness, the attitude to go ahead and get it done, and potentially you could strike on him in the pick 93 or pick 105 in the third round. That would be a lot of value. An offensive tackle with versatility to be able to play wherever you want on the offensive line. That's what the 49ers go for, and that's why he's right here behind Dylan Parham, because Parham is a better interior prospect, and that is a weakness for the 49ers right now. But Max Mitchell could be the eventual replacement for Mike McGlinchey if they decide to go that route.
Again, addressing needs a year before you actually need them, so you're not scrambling. You're putting the best plan in place, and you have the best plan of action, because if he doesn't develop or doesn't get where you need, you can address said need in free agency. You can also pay Mike McGlinchey and keep him around until you feel Mitchell's ready. A lot of options.
You also have Jalen Moore.
That's also true.
So you're doubling down. Jalen Moore could then focus on left tackle behind Trent Williams. He's going to miss a couple games.
True.
And you have Mitchell to play right tackle. Sounds pretty good to me.
Sounds like a solid plan.
Yeah.
And sitting there next at 23, Danny Gray, wide receiver at SMU. You've heard us talk about him. We'll talk about him until he's blue in the face. We absolutely love the man. 24, Cameron Thomas, the edge rusher out of San Diego State. I think one of the more underappreciated prospects in this draft class, and giving him some love here, putting him right at that 24 spot. 25, Cade Otton, tight end out of Washington. One of our favorite tight ends that we talked about in the draft video. Since James Mitchell, flying up boards, and you love to see it. And then 26 there, Khalil Shakur, Boise State wide receiver, a guy who does do the versatility role and a lot of positive things there. 27, though, Brian Robinson Jr., running back out of Alabama, and who is starting to fall down boards in some situations, in some cases. Second running back on the board for us.
Yeah, I like
third,
him.
excuse me, third.
Yeah, I like him, right? I mean, it's one of those things. I know you like him as well. He met with the 49ers. This is a guy that hasn't taken a lot of hits in his college career. He has a lot of tread on the tires. but he's a patient runner who reminds me of Jeff Wilson Jr. He's smooth, so he could eventually be that replacement. And that we know the 49ers like to have players that remind them of other guys currently on their roster so they can just keep reloading. I think Brian Robinson Jr. is one of those guys that's a complete running back that could do it 3 downs, and that's why he would be a nice complement to Elijah Mitchell.
You're right. The running style is not Elijah Mitchell. He doesn't have the top end speed, but the patience, the vision, all of those things, very similar to what we've seen out of Elijah Mitchell with how he hits holes, how he sees, the things he's able to take where it looks like there's not a lot there and turns it into big. Robinson does that as well. You're just not going to have the breakaway speed. You're not going to have necessarily the home run plays. You're not going to have the 20-plus yard runs maybe with a Brian Robinson. He is more akin to that physical style of runner. And there's question marks about Trey Sermon. There's question marks about Jeff Wilson Jr. And a guy here in Brian Robinson with where he's going and where he's starting to fall makes this a situation where I don't think he's as low as that. I don't think his value is not that low. I think he's one of the better players, and putting him right here at the 27 mark in the top 30 is exactly where he should be. And you're getting value from wherever you get him in the draft later. After pick 105, after 134, you start getting that range. The value on this kid is sky high.
Oh yeah, if he makes it to 134, it's a great selection because he's a guy that can do it all.
Agreed. After that, 28, Logan Hall, edge rusher out of the University of Houston.
Yeah, and the reason that he comes to 28, I'm not going to go too far into this but I'm talking about the top 7, but he's the first guy I believe that can play on the interior that's an edge rusher. So there's some versatility there from a defensive lineman. So that's why he made it in that list. But that list, you saw a lot of versatility, but then again, some receivers, a tight end, some receiving threats, all right there in the middle. Potentially where the 49ers could strike.
100% right where they could strike. And now, number 29 on the list is not going to be a name that you're unfamiliar with, TCC. In fact, it's Alec Lindstrom out of Boston College. And some people may be going, wait a minute, hold on. This guy, Lindstrom, 200. He's like 200th ranked. Why?
Not
we don't
by
care.
me.
We don't care. We don't care where.
Yeah.
I don't have this guy anywhere near 200. In fact, this is a top 100 player for me. So the fact that he is 200 on some people's boards at Pui, whatever it is, this guy's in our top 30.
Yeah, I mean, keep him in your top 200, and then let's see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and go with what I saw on film, not what someone else ranked him, but what I thought I saw on film. So I think he's a very good player, very heady, very instinctive, knows what he's seeing, knows how to operate in a system similar to Kyle Shanahan's, would be able to handle it. Now, the thing is, Kyle Shanahan doesn't ask a center to be able to call protections and do all those things. So you're not asking a rookie center to do a lot. But Lindstrom fits what they're going to do. And I'm sorry, 6'4", 300 pounds is a good enough size to play center in the NFL.
Accurate. And who we got at 30? Who's sitting there at 30 now?
At 30 is Pierre Strong, the running back with a 4.3 speed. And then you've got, of course, Zacoby McClain, linebacker out of Auburn at 31. At 32, you got David Bell, nice receiver prospect there. And then 33, Velus Jones. Everyone's wondering, why is Velus Jones this high?
How can he be that close to David Bell?
Out of Tennessee. Here's why. Velus Jones has 4.3 speed. You know, David Bell does not have 4.3 speed.
Oh.
Both are very, very good players, but Velus Jones gives you some more versatility to be able to do the fly sweeps, reverses, be able to catch a screen and take it to the house. Now, David Bell's a very good prospect with great hands, but Velus Jones is just something special.
And you're not wrong there. He is definitely something special and a little interesting. It's a little interesting to me how low Velus is on some boards. I think there's maybe questions about certain things in his game. I like things that you can't teach, and you can't teach speed. You can't teach the vision that he shows with the ball in his hand. And when you have those two things, when we start getting to this point where we're at on this board with draft picks, once you start getting to that 134 range, at this point, after 150, you're just thinking, you're looking for guys who have skill sets and things that fit your scheme and can do things for you. Velus Jones can definitely do that and deserves this spot where he's at. 34 after that was Tyreek Smith, edge rusher at Ohio State. And then cornerback, Alontae Taylor, sitting there, rounding out the top 35 out of Tennessee.
Yeah, I like Alontae Taylor. He's one of those guys potentially that people don't talk about very much, but he was a star player for me. I really liked how he jumped off on film. But it was a nice list, but now you're seeing guys that maybe have a certain type of skill set. You've seen a linebacker like Zacoby McClain, who's undersized according to what scouts believe. Alec Lindstrom, undersized according to what scouts believe. But they're sitting right there in that range between 28 and 35, and it's a nice group right there, I think. That was a good pick. Good picks for the 49ers potentially in the 4th, 5th round.
Oh, yeah. Agreed completely. Who do we got in at 36? is that there?
Yeah, 36. Zachary Carter, defensive end / defensive tackle, depending on how you want to use him, out of Florida.
Most likely D-tackle.
Yeah, one of Alex's big-time guys. And then at 37, Micah McFadden, linebacker from Indiana. Alex, this is one of those guys I'm very high on. His tracking, the way he gets after the ball, the run fits. He can cover intermediate to short routes at a pretty high pace, and he understands what he's seeing. So a lot of times he's all over screen passes, very instinctive player. So I like him in this area.
I don't hate this in this area either. And look, I may personally like the guy behind him more as a player prospect, but in terms of what McFadden does and what you're looking for, 100%. Also, McFadden, way more likely for the 49ers to get than a Kenneth Walker. McFadden is fantastic in run fits and absolutely fantastic in the run fits. I love that. The intermediate stuff as well. Look, we broke that down. We broke him down a little bit in that linebacker video, so if you missed anything on Micah McFadden, you want to know more about him or any of these players, because a lot of these players got discussed, go back and check out those.
Almost all of them, yeah.
Literally almost all of them. But fantastic prospect out of IU. In fact, Megan was absolutely stunned that I was watching any Micah McFadden film. Didn't think there was anyone worth a salt at IU. You were wrong, Megan. Sorry. Kenneth Walker, the third running back out of Michigan State, sitting there at 38. And 39, Mikael Wright, cornerback out of Oregon. Underappreciated cornerback prospect in this draft.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Nice nickel guy with a lot of speed with return game potential as well.
Oh, solid.
Yeah, he's super fast.
I forgot about the return game.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. After Mikael Wright, at 40, Tyquan Thornton out of Baylor, another speedy prospect there out of Baylor, Ant with the 4.2 speed. Nick Bonito, edge rusher out of Oklahoma. And rounding out the top 42, Cam Jurgens, interior O-lineman out of Nebraska, the man with an extremely ridiculously high motor, Ant, that you can see every play, snap in, snap out, how passionate he is about the game of football. And just the level of intensity that man plays with is it literally almost can't be quantified.
Yeah, he gets after it. I mean, he's one of those guys that he's fun to watch, and he's one of those guys you could easily root for. If you were thinking about a guy you want to buy a jersey of, if he made it to the 49ers, you'd want to buy a Cam Jurgens jersey because he gets after it. So he's a fun player to watch. He's very physical, and that's why he makes a list in this point. Some people could argue he's a better center prospect than Alec Lindstrom. I would argue that Lindstrom's more controlled, more technical, and a little bit headier than Cam Jurgens. But Jurgens is a very good player, and I think them being 13 spots apart is not a big deal. Both of them are big-time players.
Headier, Ant. I love it. I absolutely love it. And now, Ant, we get through 43 through 49. At 43, interior offensive lineman Cole Strange out of Chattanooga, a guy that we were very high on early in this process and still very high on even late in this process, makes the top 49 for us.
Yeah, Cole Strange is a good player, and his Senior Bowl performance was pretty good. He showed that he could anchor at times against some of the best and biggest players, but being able to do that consistently and also potentially moving to center, because right now that seems to be a thing the 49ers might have to do. Can he do it in year one? I don't know, but he could definitely progress and learn and become that guy, an interior offensive lineman. Once again, when we talked about some of these guys that are interior offensive linemen, they maybe don't carry the value of some of the offensive tackles with more versatility, but Cole Strange is a very good player, very fun to watch, and I think he would be a nice selection for the 49ers.
It's not a bad selection, and not a bad selection at all. At 44, Kirby Joseph, safety out of Illinois, and then at 45, just after that, Zaquandre White, running back out of South Carolina, who has started to get a little bit of uptick in people discussing him, but has been, for the most part, in this draft process, a running back that has stayed relatively quiet in terms of things people like about him, where he's been going.
Yeah, I mean, they sleep on some of these guys, and that's okay. Zaquandre White is not the biggest. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. What he is just a darn good football player. When he gets the ball in his hands, he makes things happen. And he's one of those guys, they say he's not elusive in open field, yet I see him make plays in the open field and get extra yardage. He's a guy that can potentially catch the ball in the backfield, would be a nice third down back initially coming into the league, and at 6'1", over 200 pounds, could hold up to the physical toll and also be able to pass block at a high level. I think Zaquandre White would be a nice selection for the 49ers. I'm hoping they look to go South Carolina again because it's worked out for them in the past.
I mean, look, this is one, we get towards the end, right? And there's names that we like, there's names we don't like. I remember sitting here looking at yours, and I know what mine is. I know I have Tyson Chandler at the bottom of the boards. The thing that sold me on this having to be Zaquandre White and not Tyson Chandler is the South Carolina connection. There's too much history with South Carolina players to ignore it. I would say that this is more likely than Tyson Chandler, especially with where they're going in draft.
Tyson Chandler's one of those guys, right? Athleticism, 4'3", he's fast enough. It's there. I would argue that Jaquandre White, though, the way he catches the ball in the backfield and the physical nature at which he plays, just shines to me on film. And maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I'm the only one that's going to be pounding the table for this guy, but I'm okay with that.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Someone's got to pound the table for your boy.
Someone's
got to pound the table for your boy. After that, 46, Amari Barno, edge rusher out of Virginia Tech. Solid here this late on the board and a very dynamic, diverse talent sitting down here at the back end of this board. 47, Hassan Haskins, running back out of Michigan. Isaiah Pacheco sneaks into the top 50, or 49, 49. Isaiah Pacheco, running back out of Rutgers. And then Marquise Bell, safety out of Florida A&M. But wait a minute, no. We got one more. We got more. We got an offensive and a defensive guy down here for the 49th best player, tied. Spencer Burford, offensive lineman for UTSA. They have him listed on DFN as an interior offensive lineman. He played tackle at UTSA. So guy, again, that has flexibility, has been going later in drafts, and definitely fits the bill for the type of offensive lineman the Niners target later in drafts.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those ones where we thought that Bell fit what the 49ers do, and Burford did, and you had Burford, I had Bell, and we were kind of going back and forth on it. We're like, you know what, we're going to have a 49A and a 49B.
We also had a 50th spot on the board, so you might as well just put it there.
Might as well use it, right? So, yeah, both those guys are good prospects. Bell, I don't know if he'd make the roster. Burford definitely has a potential to make the roster. And then Isaiah Pacheco sneaking in, at 48 is one of those guys that the reason he's on there, the ability to run really fast is something that Kyle Shanahan can definitely value. But unlike Ty Chandler, this guy's over 210 pounds.
Different type of
And I believe he's still learning how to run. If they could teach him how to run with patience, he could really be a big-time player in this. I don't think he's that far off from Pierre Strong. It's just he hasn't been taught the proper techniques and the proper patience to be able to play at that level yet.
Also, big also, Rutgers O-line was not very. It's really bad.
Oh, they weren't?
No, they were pretty awful. So look, you can feel any way you want about this big board TCC, but I think every single prospect that's on here, if the Niners can land one of these guys, a handful of these guys, you're talking about a good position for San Francisco.
Yeah, potentially there's guys that could trade up for, guys who will be sitting there at 61.
Or maybe guys that fall.
Yeah, or fall to them at 61. And then other guys, amongst the draft they could go after. I'm sure that every single name that you wanted on the top 49 is not there. If we missed somebody, let us know who we missed and why they should be on the top 49. But don't just let us know why they should be on. Tell us why we should take somebody off the list that's currently on. Let's have that conversation. I think when it comes to the draft, it's one of the funnest things to do. But when it came down to it, I just went off the film. I don't care what everyone else says. And this is what we landed on.
These are the 49 players, 50 players the Niners could target in the upcoming NFL draft. That makes sense for the 49ers, and they're not the 49 best players, but they are the 49 most likely players for the 49ers. Let us know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there commenting away, don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification bell, and because we got more content coming their way, more stuff happening. I don't know if they know this. The draft's going to be happening soon, and that's something they may want to be invested in and watch. And we got this draft party in Galt on Friday from 4 to 8 p.m. at Back Alley Brew that if they can make, they should. And if they can't, they can always just watch the live stream that we're doing from there right here on YouTube.
Yeah, whether you're watching the live stream or you're going to be right there in person with us at Back Alley, it's going to be a great time. Make sure you're there. We're going to have guests as well that come in and talk with us about the draft, but we're going to be covering every single draft pick and talking about what the 49ers did, what they're going to do, and what's next. It's going to be a fun time. Looking forward to it. Hope everyone joins us on Friday for the live stream or at Back Alley Brew.
Either way you slice it, we like to see you there, whether it's right here on the tubes, Ant, or whether it's in person at Back Alley Brew. We'll catch you on the next one, TCC, and until that time, stay safe.
Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.
You stuck around all the way to this point. Well, I hope by this point you've at least liked and subscribed if you haven't already. And there's some cards over there, Ant, too, with some other high quality videos they can check out.
Yeah, click one of the links and watch one of the videos. It's going to be great.
We'll see you there.